Hello. Today we are going to see some theories on back doubling, lift off point, and false twist in rotor spinning. So first let us see what is back doubling. The fibers separated by the opening roller are transported to the rotor wall by the air current. We have seen this in the passage. Not more than 5 fibers at a time slide down the rotor wall and get combined again into fine layers of fibers in the rotor groove. So the fibers that are opened out um, come at in a range of say 5 fibers at a time at the rotor wall, and they get combined into fine layers of fibers in the rotor groove. A layer of these fibers is deposited into the rotor groove till the yarn reaches the required thickness. So these fibers, whatever is being guided into the rotor groove, they keep on depositing themselves layer upon layer, and then once they reach the yarn thickness, they are taken out. The buildup of the fiber layers into the final yarn thickness is known as back doubling. So this buildup, whatever is happening, like the number of layers that are being laid till the final yarn thickness is reached, this particular phenomenon is known as back doubling. The number of layers depend on the yarn twist and the circumference of the rotor used. So we can always calculate the number of back doublings, which is shown as D over here, that is equal to pi into rotor diameter in mm into turns per meter inserted in the yarn divided by 1000. So let us look at one numerical on this. In this, the yarn spun on the rotor is 20 Zenny, Tm applied is 4.45 with a rotor diameter of 35 mm. We are asked to calculate the number of back doublings. So first of all, we will need TPM. So let us calculate TPI first from the given values. So 4.45 root 20, we get the answer of TPI as 20. Converting this to TPM would be multiplied by 100 divided by 2.54. We get 783.5. So therefore, D we can calculate as pi into diameter of the rotor, which is 35 here, into TPM, which we have just calculated, divided by 1000. So we get 85 fiber layers. That means 85 layers of each of around 5 fibers in a particular layer. So many layers will be laid on one on top of the other before the yarn is made and pulled out. So there is some amount of irregularity that gets corrected during this back doubling, similar to the doubling that we see on draw frame, where some amount of irregularity is corrected. In this case, let us see how much length of yarn gets corrected. So normally the number of back doublings, the number varies from 60 to 90. Doubling always improves the regularity of the final product. In the case of rotor spinning, this doubling takes place at the individual fiber level. We know that whatever fibers are delivered into the rotor is around 5 fibers, and it is always individually opened by the opening roller before it enters the rotor. So this kind of a doubling is at a very fine level, but this kind of leveling or improvement in regularity is only possible over a small length of yarn, which is equal to the, or rather corresponds the circumference of the rotor. So in the above example, the length that may be leveled out is 3.14 into 35, that is pi into d, that is the diameter of the rotor that is given to us, that's equal to 110 mm. And all unevenness longer than this, that means whatever evenness is happening is only happening in this much length because of the back doubling phenomenon that we just saw. All other faults or irregularities, whatever is there above 110 mm, will all pass into the yarn. So they will be still there in the final yarn. Therefore, only the very short term irregularity of a rotor spun yarn is better when you compare it with a ring spun yarn. So now we come to the second point in our lecture, that is we should know what is a lift off point. So there's a diagram which is shown here. The diagram shows the position of the lift off points and the fiber deposit situation in 4 different sequential operations or occasions in the rotor group. So these are just sequentially placed here So position number 1, after say just as the rotor moves or it is rotating, this is second position that all these elements take, third and so on, third and fourth. So now let us see each one of them. We have to concentrate on the yarn lift-off point, which is shown here. Let us see what are the other labels that are there here. This is a yarn draw off. Yarn is being drawn off from this area. So movement of the roll off movement of the yarn in the rotor groove. This is the rotor groove that is there. We are showing a cross section of it, and the fibers are being laid in the rotor groove. So this is the last layer here. As from here on, the still fibers are being deposited. Then equals one revolution of the rotor, this particular distance. And what you see here is fiber layers are laid one on top of the other. So this is the number of back doubling or the fiber layers that are being deposited. And so here in when this is the on this end, these are the last layers of fibers that have just come in, and at this point it is the fiber layer, the first layers of the fiber that have already come long time before. So after a number of doublings on back doublings one on top of the other, now the yarn is ready to be lifted off. So now after we have seen this first diagram in detail, let us go to the second one. What we see here is that the lift off point was earlier here, which has shifted slightly towards the left, and what you see is a new layer of fiber has got deposited on top of the earlier layer. The earlier layer was here, this red colored, and on top of it another black colored layer has got deposited, and simultaneously you can see as the yarn is being lifted off, even some fibers have, this is you can imagine this like a circle, and the fibers have even started getting deposited behind this particular yarn lift off point. So then you come to the next diagram where you see the lift off point has further moved on towards the left, and you can see another layer of fiber has been deposited. So now it is slowly reaching the thickness of the yarn that we want, and behind it again another layer which was there. This layer has become slightly larger in size, and you can see again it comes back to its original position after some time. So this is how the lift off point keeps moving. The lift off point moves forward with each rotation of the rotor. So each rotation makes the lift off point move further into the rotor groove, and it is continuously happening. The lift off point travels a distance of rotor circumference divided by number of back doublings with every rotation of the rotor. So in the above example that we just saw, if we were to use the numbers that were given earlier, the lift-off point would move a distance of pi d, which is the rotor circumference, divided by, we just calculated number of back doublings there, it was 86. So I get 1.28 mm with every rotation of the rotor. So that means the lift-off point will travel a distance of say 1.28 mm every time the rotor rotates with one rotation of the rotor. So after 86 turns of the rotor, we can imagine that after 86 turns, the lift-off point would have traveled. So if with every rotation it travels so much, with 86 rotations of the rotor, it would have traveled 110 mm, and which is nothing but the circumference of the rotor, which we have seen, which is equal to, of course, pi d, which is the circumference. That is what we are now trying to analyze, is that after 86 rotations of the rotor, which is also the number of back doublings, the yarn lift-off point would have returned to its starting position. So if this was the first position where it started with the lift-off point, then after 86 rotations in this particular case, the lift-off point would have moved throughout the rotor groove and returned back to this original position only after 86 rotations of the rotor are complete. So now we come to the next topic of discussion, and that is binding in zone. So as we have seen this diagram earlier, this is known as a twist zone or the binding in zone, and the lift-off point is just near it. We have just seen what is the lift-off point. From here, the yarn would be lifted off by because of the delivery roller, which is taking the yarn away from the rotor groove as it is getting formed. So this here we have seen this is the fiber guide channel which guides the new fibers and they get deposited in the rotor groove as rings of fiber. So with this diagram, we can explain the binding in zone further. During spinning, the twist that is inserted in the yarn penetrates into the fiber ring in the collecting groove. So whatever twist we insert, it goes into the fiber ring in the groove and are bound together to form the yarn. Each rotation of the yarn along with the rotor inserts one twist. So one twist is inserted for every rotation. We already know that. The zone in which the yarn end inserts twist into the fiber ring is known as the twist or the binding in zone. Now this twist or the binding in zone where the yarn starts, this already made yarn starts inserting twist due to the rotation of the rotor. That particular region, it's a region which is there, and this region is known as the binding in zone. So a close-up view of this, this would be your lift off point, which is where the yarn is being lifted, and this would be the twisting zone or the binding in zone. And beyond this, there will be still untwisted fibers which will get twisted as the lift off point moves further into the rotor. The length of the binding in zone is very, very important. Higher the twist multipliers that we use, longer will be the binding in zone. If the length is too short, that means if the binding in zone is too small, then you will find that lots of ends down will happen. That means lots of end breakages will happen, the rate will increase. And if the binding in zone is too long, that means if this extends further, um, then in that case there will be too many wrapper fibers. And this binding in zone, we have just mentioned that it depends on the twist multiplier. So higher the twist multiplier, longer will be the binding in zone. So it is directly proportional. We'll see what the wrapper fibers are there. What do we mean by wrapper fibers in the next lecture. So let us come to our next topic, that is genuine and true twist. So in the rotor spinning passage or during rotor spinning, we have two types of twist that is inserted in the yarn. One is the genuine or the true twist, and the second one is a false twist. Both phenomenon happen simultaneously. So let us separate them into two different zones where we first study the true twist, and then in the next slide we will see how the false twist is inserted and how it helps us. So here we see a diagram which is showing A, which is the represents the takeoff roller. Then you see a section B of the yarn which extends from takeoff roller to the draw off nozzle. This is your draw off nozzle. We have seen this draw off nozzle in detail earlier in the earlier lectures. So this particular section of the yarn is labeled as B. The yarn section from draw off nozzle to the rotor groove is marked as C over here, this length, and D would be the rotor groove. As the rotor rotates, twist is inserted in the section B of the yarn, say Z twist. So as you can imagine this end of the yarn is being held or rather pressed against the rotor groove by the centrifugal force, and since the rotor is rotating at a very, very high speed, it will take the yarn end and turn it continuously around the nozzle here. So twist gets inserted in this section B over here between the delivery or the takeoff roller and the draw off nozzle, and we know that one twist is inserted when the rotor completes one rotation. So this is the true twist that actually gets inserted, and it happens in the section B first due to the rotation of the rotor. This true twist will depend on the amount of time spent by it in the rotor. This formula we have seen earlier, that the twist or the TPM or the TPI is equal to rotor speed divided by the delivery speed. So if the delivery speeds are low, the true twist that is inserted or the genuine twist would be high. So since it is inversely proportional, the more the time that is spent in the rotor, the more will be the twist. So you come to the twist flow Let us compare it with the twist flow that happens at ring spinning. Just like ring spinning, twist flow is happening in the direction opposite to the yarn movement. The yarn is moving in the upward direction, whereas the twist is flowing against the movement of the yarn downwards and trying to enter the rotor groove here. In rotor spinning, the bending of the yarn at the draw of nozzle is an obstacle for twist transmission. Now what we see is just like in ring spinning, the lappet or the fiber, the yarn guide would happen to be a sort of obstacle in the flow of twist towards the front roller. In the similar manner, what happens is this draw of nozzle would act like an obstacle for twist transmission and shall not allow all the twist that is formed in the section B to flow in this section C of the yarn. The yarn would not have been spun if the twist level would be very low in section C. Now imagine that there is hardly any twist in the section C and it is being rotated at a very high speed by the rotor. The yarn would be very weak in this area and you couldn't have spun the yarn if nothing else would have been done. So such low twist would not be sufficient to twist the fibers in the rotor groove. So what is to be done or how this spinning is happening in spite of the low amount of true twist in this section C? Let us see that. And that happens because a false twist is there in the rotor spinning process. So spinning is possible because section C exhibits more twist due to the false twist effect at the draw of nozzle. So this happens mainly because of the draw of nozzle, because of which false twist is inserted. We'll see how that is done. The additional false twist is generated by the rolling action of the yarn on the surface of the draw of nozzle. The yarn starts rolling on the draw of nozzle as it is getting rotated by the rotor, and because of this, the additional false twist is generated. The delivery roller here acts or forms the nib, and the centrifugal force in the rotor groove acts as the twist generating element. The draw of nozzle here is a passive element in between the delivery roller and the rotor groove. So this in a normal false twist process, the twisting element is in the center, but here in this case the draw of nozzle is a passive element. As the yarn is being pressed against the nozzle surface, the false twist is inserted. We can say that Z twist is inserted in section C and S twist is inserted in section B of the yarn. Higher the friction at the nozzle surface, higher is the additional twist that is generated. The false twist effect can be increased by using a larger nozzle surface diameter, additional notches and grooves on the nozzle surface. We have seen all these parameters in our earlier lecture. A larger bend in the draw of tube and a twist stop in the draw of tube also will help or rather change the amount of false twist effect. All these parameters will be effective in increasing or decreasing the additional twist due to false twist. The false twist is generated between the nozzle and the binding in zone in the section C of the yarn. The section C shall therefore exhibit more twists than the actual twist that will remain in the final yarn wound on the package. So this being a false twist phenomenon, as soon as the yarn moves into section B, there will be no twist that is there, and so in the final yarn you will only see a true genuine twist that we saw in the earlier slide, whereas this false twist only helps the yarn formation. As we said earlier that if there were no twist in this section C, then no yarn would have been formed. So this false twist phenomenon, which is due to the nozzle, it will help us only in the formation of the yarn, but it will not contribute towards the final yarn twist. Yarn tensions during spinning in rotor. The yarn tensions are maximum at the delivery roller and it decreases as you go towards the rotor wall. Twist flow is inversely proportional to the yarn tension in the yarn. So we must know that wherever tensions are less, twist will easily flow, and when the tensions are high in any area of the yarn, twist will not be able to flow, or the tension acts like an obstacle to the flow of twist. Therefore, the false twist that is generated in the section C we just saw, that whatever false twist is generated, it will stay in that particular region because it has got low tension. Section C is a low tension area, as we just saw in the first point that we made here. The yarn tensions are maximum at the delivery rollers, and as you go towards the rotor wall into the rotor groove, the yarn tensions go on reducing. Since the yarn tension is very low in section C of the yarn, all the false twist that is generated will stay here only, and therefore this section C will exhibit more twist. The additional twist generated due to the false twist and the tension variations that we have just seen, because of both these reasons mentioned above, it will help the formation of the yarn under stable conditions. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to form the yarn because of constant breakages. The conditions would be very unstable. The false twist effect also increases with the rotor speed. We should also know that as we increase the rotor speed, the false twist effect will go on increasing. So, with this understanding of these topics of the binding in zone, the lift off point, and the false twist, and a genuine twist, false twist. So, we have come to the end of this lecture. Thank you.